Turning back to Washington's 4th of July celebration, which may cost the National Park Service more than $2 million. That's not the whole price tag, though. According to the Washington Post, the National Park Service diverted $2.5 million to partially fund the Salute to America celebration. That money was intended to improve national parks across the country. Well, officials say the celebration usually costs around $2 million total. It's still unclear just how much this parade will cost. So joining me now from Washington is Politico reporter and co-author of the Politico playbook, Daniel Lippman. Let us talk about this celebration. It looks like it's going to be a pretty big deal. The White House canceled the previous plans, or at least they were sort of, I don't know if they had plans in the works, but they had been discussing the idea of a military parade. And then we found out how much it would cost, tens of millions of dollars. So that was sort of scrapped, and the military presence downsized a bit. How will this parade be less expensive, and what is the military presence?
So there's a bunch of tanks that they brought up from the south and are standing at a rail yard outside Washington today. Arrived on Monday night, captured by an AP photographer for the first time. But it doesn't look like they're going to be rolling down the streets. They're going to be in a static display on the National Mall. But actually, how to get those tanks from that rail yard to the National Mall is another question, because the city leaders don't want them rolling down the streets, and so since they're so heavy, you don't want to have the city pay for repairs to roads, and so that's something they're trying to figure out right now. And Trump actually hopes that maybe for Veterans Day in November, then he can have his military parade. But he always keeps hoping for such a thing. It doesn't look like it's ever going to happen.
So I was talking about this a little bit earlier because I'm kind of a little unfamiliar with what the sort of traditional 4th of July event in the nation's capital really looks like. Is there usually no military presence or very little?
It's usually pretty toned down. Mm-hmm. It's kind of more of a regular parade and fireworks. That's kind of the capstone and the most famous part of July 4th in D.C. But Trump wants to amp it up. When he went to France a couple of years ago, he saw the parade for the French was holding, and so that he wanted to copy that. And he ordered the Pentagon to do a similar thing, but there's pushback from their end because of the amount of money, and they also don't want to be used as a political machine by Trump. Remember, they got criticism for covering up the USS John McCain when Trump was in Japan a couple months ago, and so they are very attuned to avoid the appearance of you being a political weapon. Remember, his re-election campaign just launched a couple weeks ago. Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about that, and then I want to come back to the price tag here. We're hearing about this special VIP section. Among the people that will be allowed in that section are political donors. Is this going to be a speech, or is it going to be a political rally? Is it going to be a celebration of the nation? What is this, and who else is in that VIP section? So they are actually trying to give out tickets to VIPs, but it's not totally unprecedented that you have the Interior Department and the White House coordinating with giving a small number of tickets to political donors. Just think about the White House garden tours, the Easter egg rolls, which are traditionally used to reward political donors. Unsure how many tickets they have that they're going to give out, and a lot of people are actually traveling out of town, and so they may not be available to attend Trump's speech, and so it'd be awkward if no one of note showed up watching Trump's speech. And I think he will probably tone it down a little bit. It's not going to be a regular campaign rally because he knows that he's been heavily criticized for this, and so I don't think he's going to launch into diatribes against Joe Biden or Kamala Harris at this type of speech.
Right, exactly. So let's talk about the price tag. The National Park Service diverting about $2.5 million to help pay for this. Where's the rest of the money coming from?
So they're going to just find other parts of the government budget, extra $1 million here and there from the Pentagon budget. for these flyovers from planes, military jets. But the U.S. Congress and House Democrats, they have demanded a full accounting of how much this is going to cost. And so far, the administration and the Interior Department hasn't really responded. And so we all don't know exactly how much this is going to cost taxpayers. They are also shutting down Reagan Airport tomorrow night for about an hour and a half as these planes are flying in the air. And so that didn't used to happen either. And so it's kind of a ramped up military show, which is having real world consequences on some, passengers.
Yeah, that budget might be, a work in progress, considering you mentioned that they're not even sure how they're going to get the tanks into the position that they want them to be in. So they probably don't know how much all of it's going to cost until, well, it's already until the bill comes, I presume.
Sure.
Daniel Lippman, thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.